happens when we totally expend the winter budget, that's June. Now we have that available road construction money as another line item that can move around. Whereas if it's in a warrant article, that's where it is. I'm not saying.
Well, unless
I'm
it's a
not-
special article, it can be moved anyway. So, unless we, do we declare that a special article? If it's just a separate warrant article, that's treated for expense purposes as the same as the budget. We can, and there was discussion at the conference about that.
And maybe you're right,
You know.
It's a good discussion, isn't
Yeah.
it?
yeah,
Yeah,
but I mean, so put that aside for a
Right.
second, and you're probably right, we need a separate construction versus paving. We've had $180,000 worth of paving for the last 20 years.
right,
Paving costs haven't gone static for 20 years. So
right.
we're paving less and less as we go forward.
Well,
So I think.
there have been years when we paid less, the paving cost has come down. My whole thing is, if we're gonna increase the amount,
Mhm.
then fine, but let's make sure that everybody understands we're increasing,
Right.
okay?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's just paving, and you're moving the construction part out, because I think what I read from the road agent was, he needs more money to do his construction part. So if we leave it with paving, all of a sudden we're going from 220 to 250. That's harder to explain to the general public or even to the budget committee, I think, than to say, we need to separate out the construction portion and the paving is staying flat. I mean,
Bill has been very kind and has represented the facts, accurately. The fact is that we had a renegade budget committee, that everything over $10,000 was going to be a capital improvement, no matter what it was. And the Board of Selectmen held against that. But in fairness, Carolyn and the board compromised on one issue just to end the discussion. And so last year, that's when the change took place. There's a little more thoughtfulness now going on, which is a compliment to a lot of people. So
Anyway,
it's an interesting discussion.
Yeah, right.
And
It
we have to
is,
have
and we, in terms of completing the CIP process, we need to identify how much more we're gonna add.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, they're up against it, because
because we're coming down through the process.
Right.
I went to the meeting, one of the meetings, and, we're lucky to have, in my opinion, I was a former member, but we're lucky to have these people. They put a lot of thought into it, zero right in on it, and ask good questions, so I think it's an important process.
Yep.
I support it.
So, last thing on that, on the highway, does this $70,000 that we got out of this clear blue sky from the state, or the 80,000,
That's off budget.
is off budget, but is always off budget?
Yes.
I mean, at what point in time?
It is separate always, and according to
Forever?
yes, and according to the guidance that we got, or it's a separate, it's non-expiring.
It's income.
It's non-expiring, it can only be used for those purposes, and oh, by the way, make sure when we spend that money that we keep accurate records, so if at some point in the future, the legislature says, we want to see what you spent this on,
Right.
that,
So we had, yeah, and I'm always baffled by our legislature. But how do we account for it? Okay, we're gonna make a decision here in 2018 that we're gonna use that money for X road.
well,
Or
buy a truck,
union
or a
war,
combination
Union
of
or
things.
for something. Okay, it has to go on our budget. We have to run it through something. I mean, we've already got like 4 sets of books operating here. We're gonna set up another set of books?
This is, it's a,
We have to declare that this is what we're gonna do with the money. Then the money comes in, or maybe it's already here, I don't know.
money's already here,
Okay,
right?
the money's already here.
Mhm.
We need to, how are we gonna track the expense of that money if it's not in our budget?
It's listed as under revenue,
Yeah, I got
and
that.
we list it where we want to spend it in our budget.
So-
No, it's
No, it's off
it is
budget.
off budget, right. And I think, in my opinion, we ought to include somewhere in the annual report that this is how this is spent,
DRA will tell us how we have to do it.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because
And then we just follow their
I'm
instructions.
not a real fan of off-budget stuff. I mean, that just has
Yes.
corruption
Yes.
written all over it.
It certainly adds to the confusion on the outside.
Well, I mean, and how are you gonna answer the questions? I mean, you're gonna have to bring out another set of books that illustrate what you did with the money.
It happened at the budget committee with, and Steve tried to explain it, the fund that the Conservation Commission has for projects
Right.
that comes from the current use tax.
And I remember the debate where we limited them to 5,000. I was a major voice in not giving, they wanted 100% of the change tax.
And
At
also,
which point you're creating this enormous.
and I also remember when you spoke against and so did the budget committee, with the rec committee having
Oh, yeah, I don't mind them having a little money, that's fine, but if they start having these events and they become, the Bill Graham of Tuftonboro, and all of a sudden they got 100 grand sitting there. Now we've got appointed people deciding how to spend $100,000 worth of town money,
Yes.
and that's,
I thought your comment at the budget committee is that you support elected officials and
well, at least
votes.
then if you don't like what they did, you can not elect them,
Exactly.
you know?
We're getting close to
Yeah,
10 o'clock here. Anything else, gentlemen?
yeah, good.
Did you want to do the agreement there for the library septic proposal?
We have one question that's being
Okay.
researched, right? The septic system on the library?
No, well, no, we were talking about what I was talking about was the electrical purchase.
Okay.
So you want the design sign for it?
Yes. This is,
It's in there.
this,
That's the
It's just a
electrical
single sheet.
purchase.
Yeah.
this is
that
the
one.
library septic system. You guys want me to sign that, so we move it along?
This is just Folsom's design
Yep.
proposal.
So we're talking, $1,700. Move approval.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye. Yeah, we gotta move this thing.
Anything else before we adjourn, gentlemen? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Folks, have a nice weekend.
Two.
Thank you for